Do you know what this is? If you said a robot's genitalia, then congratulations, you're correct. If you also said the Samsung Gear 360 2017, then you're also correct. Samsung have just released their brand new addition to the Gear 360 line, the 2017 model of their famous 360 camera. And a lot of people have been asking me about whether this is a camera worth buying. I've had it for a few weeks now and I feel like I've got a really good understanding of how it works, what its strengths and weaknesses are. I've got to say this is an amazing camera, however there is one fatal flaw, which I'll get to a little later. In this video, I'll go over every strength and weakness I can think of and show you a bunch of footage, photos, and everything you need to know about the Gear 360 2017. So first I want to start with the design. It's a very cute little device. Has those two big eyes on either side, or lenses, and it feels really good to touch. I think the design is really good. The lenses are closer together than the previous model. That's awesome. You'll see that it has a USB-C port there on the outside, as well as a micro SD port, which you can actually pull out yourself. It's very easy. You don't need to open any latches or anything. You just pull it out there. Very good design feature. Here we have a menu button and a back button, and the record button is here. The only issue I have with the design is the record button being there, because it's practically impossible to take a photo with your thumb right there, literally 1 centimeter from the lens, without your hand ending up huge. It's one of the biggest complaints I get from people in the 360 field is they hate big hand, or theta thumb as it was called with the Ricoh Theta camera. So you don't want your hand too close to the lens of your camera. This can be fixed by turning on the self timer, and then you just move your hand down here. Samsung did include this little rubber ring that's supposed to stabilize the camera when you're putting it on a table or the ground or whatever. But really, I mean, come on, this looks like a sex toy, not a camera tripod. I'm sure you could have a wild night out with this thing. And look at the bag that the camera comes in. If this isn't all the ingredients for a wild night out, then I don't know what is. This is where you'll have to take things into your own hands to come up with other ways to keep the camera still. You can put the camera down by itself. It will stand up. It's got a pretty solid base there. It's got a 1/4 inch tripod thread on the bottom, which is handy. If you own the previous Gear 360, you can actually detach the legs and attach it to this one. So that's that problem there. One thing I do miss about the previous one is this little tripod. So if you own it, then just transfer the legs. Simple as that. If you don't, there are lots of other options. You can just attach it to a normal tripod, although normally a big tripod will take up too much of your photo. So you want to get a mini one. I like the little Manfrotto Mini Pixie tabletop tripod. This is a good one and has a very minimal presence if you fold up the legs like that. Also, I use my Manfrotto selfie stick that I've done plenty of reviews about already. This is an amazing companion to the Gear 360 2017. Definitely a worthy investment. If you just extend it that much, it's going to be pretty much invisible underneath the camera, because the blind spot's directly underneath, so there'll be no presence of any selfie stick, which is awesome. The new camera is smaller than the last one, so you can actually fit this one into your pocket. I know that's a small thing, but it makes a big difference in the grand scheme of things, because if you can put it in your pocket, you're going to take it with you everywhere you go and end up getting 10 times as many photos and videos. So this is a huge factor and a big selling point. This is a portable camera now. It wasn't really before, without having to get its own dedicated case and carrying it around separately. Memory and battery life. Samsung have said that the camera will last up to 130 minutes, and from my experience so far, I think they're more or less right. With the storage capacity, you can get up to 256 gigabytes into the micro SD card. That is a huge amount. I don't know how you could ever shoot that much footage, but that's really handy. That is a lot of storage. Personally, I don't see the need for any more than 64 gigabytes of storage, because I'm always backing up my footage and formatting the memory card anyway, or just using different micro SD cards, so this isn't really a big factor for me. With photo resolution, the 2017 does 15 megapixel photos. I know this is less than the previous model. However, if you're just shooting for social media, for Facebook, Instagram, this is plenty. I mean, look, we all love infinite resolution in our 360 photos, but for something so small and cheap, you really just can't expect that. If you want super high res photos, you've got to spend 10 to 20 times more money in getting the absolute best 360 camera out there that can do that resolution, or get a DSLR rig. For me, the resolution on this camera is totally acceptable. It's not the best 360 photo camera out there, but it does a good job, and I've been relatively happy with the results I've gotten from posting on social media, both as Tiny Planets and interactive 360s. While resolution seems to be the #1 thing people look for, something that gets overlooked is dynamic range and the look of the photos. You can have all the resolution in the world, but if it's completely overexposed and looks horrible, then resolution doesn't mean anything. So I look more for the look of the photos than resolution. With the Gear 360 2017, you have the ability to do HDR in 2 ways, both with 1 photo and 3 photos combined. In this first photo, I used no HDR at all. And in the second photo, I've activated HDR through changing the setting within the camera that takes 3 images and blends them together to get a much more balanced exposure. And in my opinion, that looks pretty darn good. It's getting the highlights and the shadows quite well, leaving lots of room for color grading if necessary. With video resolution, it does 4096 by 2048. This is a slight upgrade from the previous camera. However, it's not that much of an upgrade, is it? So if you're looking for an upgrade in video, you probably want to look at 8K 360 cameras. Honestly, 4K does a really good job. A lot of people complain about video resolution, but realistically, you just need to remember we're at the beginning of the 360 era, and it's only going to get better and better, and it's evolving so quickly that soon we'll be shooting 16K videos in 360 on our phones, but that day hasn't come. At the moment, 4K, it produces a damn good result. So for something that fits in your pocket and at this price point, I am very happy, and I think you will be too. If you saw my Gear 360 2016 versus 2017 comparison video, one of the main things that stood out to me was the stabilization of the new camera. It's much improved, and you can actually walk around with this camera in your hand, and it does stabilize it a little bit. It's still a tiny bit shaky, but still I would feel good going out with this camera in my hand and knowing that it's actually going to look okay later on. It's not going to be like this, it's going to be more like this. A common issue that Gear 360 users face is that the camera overheats when shooting 4K video. I haven't had that problem personally, but I've heard of many people who have, including one person already who's had an issue with this one overheating. One of my friends on Instagram told me that his Gear 360 shut down after, I think it was 15 minutes of recording 4K video. However, this was in 35-degree heat, and you really need to always be cautious when you're filming in heat, no matter which kind of camera you own, whether it's a 360 camera, a DSLR, a video camera, it's probably going to overheat if you heat it up too much. It's only a tiny little camera, right? And it needs to process that huge image and video quality as it's shooting. It's going to heat up. So you just need to be careful of that and not go out and shoot an hour of 360 video content in like 40-degree heat. That's just silly, isn't it? It's setting yourself up for failure. So if you live in a hot climate and you want to use this, I would suggest shooting short clips. Don't shoot for a long time because it's probably going to experience this issue. Today, here in Sydney, it's a nice 21 degrees. I'm going to test this. I'm going to leave the Gear 360 rolling in 4K and see how long it lasts for before it shuts down, overheats, or just switches off because it's reached the limit. Two, one. And we're rolling. What are we at? 3 minutes 54. So far so good. Personally, I never shoot 360 video for longer than a few minutes. I just don't think it's a medium that's that exciting yet in the longer form. It's really tiring moving around your VR headset or swiping around a 360 video for a long time. It's fun for a few minutes, but in my personal opinion, it's better shooting short amounts than longer ones. 10.5 minutes, still going strong. 19 minutes 39. And that's 26 minutes. Well and truly gone past that 15-minute mark. So really, I guess I'd put that down to the climate. It's nice and cool here, lots of airflow, so the camera is able to perform at its peak. Very good news, we're at 45 minutes and it's still rolling. That is very good from a tiny little penis-shaped 360 camera. 48 minutes and 41 seconds. So you'll notice I've got it in the shade there. I think that's actually going to increase how long it overall records for. just because it's going to be less likely to overheat because it's not in direct sun. You just need to think of your camera like a kid or a pet. You wouldn't leave it out in the hot sun all day. You got to treat it right, and then it'll perform for you. Big moment, we're at 59, 58, 59, 1 hour. 1 hour of recording, and it's still going. Damn, I'm impressed. Is that smoke I smell? Oh no, it's on fire! Run, run! No, I'm just kidding. 1 hour, 13, 55 seconds. This just seems too good to be true. And we're done. That was just over 1 hour and 20 minutes. I'm thoroughly impressed, and my guess is it turned off because it ran out of battery. And you know what? It doesn't even feel really hot either. Like, that's only just warm. After recording 4K for 1 hour 20, it's just warm, so it didn't overheat. It was the battery, it ran out, and that's fair enough. Any camera that records 4K video for over an hour is probably going to run out of battery, so that is very good performance. Something that often gets looked past with the Gear 360 cameras is that you can use this as a normal video camera. So you can choose to use just one lens and shoot a full HD video. That's really cool. I mean, it's not going to be the best quality out of all the video cameras out there, and realistically, your phone is probably going to shoot better video. But if you're a videographer or a filmmaker or a blogger, it's good to know that you've got a backup cam or a B, C, D cam in your pocket, which was a 360 camera and then turns into a regular camera. That's cool. I probably won't use it myself, but it's good to know that it does that. Okay, let's try out a time lapse. So there we go, time lapse. All right, so as you can see with these two numbers here, the top one is the elapsed time. The bottom one is the time in the time lapse. So we've been rolling now for 15 seconds, yet we show 1 second of time lapse. That's really helpful because it helps you get a feeling of how long the overall time lapse is going to be.
You are the world around me, the stars of grace, the songs of trust of me.
I bet you weren't expecting this. The camera can record super slow motion 120 frames per second. However, this is at 1440 by 720 resolution, which makes it so pixelated that it's almost unusable, unfortunately. Look, it works as a tiny planet, but as an interactive 360, as you'll see on my YouTube page, it's just too blurry, unfortunately. It does also shoot 60 frames per second at 2560 by 1280, so that won't be quite as bad. For me personally, the biggest selling point of this camera is its compatibility. I've always been an iPhone user, and the Gear 360 has not been compatible with iPhone, so I haven't been able to use it up until now. So this is now compatible with the most recent models of iPhone, and from what I understand, more than 50% of photographers and creatives out there use iPhone, so this opens up a huge new market for Samsung. Look, yes, there still are a lot of limitations which are very annoying. There are still a lot of Android phones where the compatibility has been excluded with this camera. Yes, that's annoying, but you'll just have to stick to a computer workflow for now until they make your phone compatible. Who knows if that day will come. If not, you need to acquaint yourself with a computer workflow and not a mobile one. Okay, iPhone workflow. Turn the camera on. Sometimes it takes a while for the iPhone to recognize the camera, so you do need to fiddle. You need to hold down menu, go connect to iOS. Now, will the Wi-Fi work? Come on, you can do it. Okay, that took about 20 seconds, which isn't that bad. Annoying, but I can let it slide. Let's see if there's any difference with the Android connectivity. Camera goes on. Samsung Gear 360. There it is, connected instantly, did not have to do a thing. Camera gallery settings, no live streaming option, you'll notice. It's not available for iPhone just yet. It will be in the future, I'm sure, but not now. Camera will just take you to live view mode, where you have control over basic settings. And you can look at the image and the video. Then we've got the gallery. So on iPhone, it does reduce the resolution of photos to 4096 by 2048. I can probably let that slide, but if you do want to edit your photos professionally, you'll want to take it to your computer because you want to get every pixel you can get. This is taking quite a while, In all fairness, I am using a model of iPhone that they said wasn't compatible. I'm using the iPhone 6 here, and I think they said the 6S and onwards were the compatible phones, so I guess I can understand why it's more slow on my phone. It would be interesting to see if it's much faster on the newer ones. It most likely is. That's an important fact actually, because if there are big files, they need time to transfer. You've got so much data, and if the phone can't handle it, then it's kind of my fault for not having the computing power. It's not the cameras or the apps. I'm using the Galaxy S7 Edge, and clearly it just has the computing power to transfer these big files quite quickly and wirelessly. Next cab off the rank is live streaming. This is a feature many people are looking forward to, and the minute I tried it, the cluster you-know-what began. First I tried using my iPhone, and iPhones just aren't compatible yet. Next I tried my Galaxy S7 Edge, and while it is compatible, I was having login issues with both YouTube and Facebook. I got caught in an endless loop. Then I decided to tether the camera to my iMac and try streaming through my computer. This was promising at first, and the connection did work. However, it was pixelated and glitchy as hell. Half the image was covered in grey. I had people reporting how choppy it was, and it just didn't prove to be a workable solution. Then I spoke to my friend Mick from 360 Rumors, and he told me that his stream worked flawlessly. I checked it out on his YouTube channel, and there it was. It looked pretty good in its 1920 by 960 resolution. He was streaming via his brand new Samsung Galaxy S8, so that may have had something to do with it. I saw another friend of mine also stream for over 3.5 hours, so that told me that live streaming is definitely workable right now. I put my failures down to either my phone's not being fast enough or my internet connection not being fast enough. It does require a lot of power to host a full HD 360 stream to the internet from a mobile device or computer, so you will need a really fast connection. In Australia, we have okay connections, but I really feel like you need something next level like you get in the United States. As most of you know, my favorite application of shooting 360 is turning them into tiny planets. And so far this has turned out to be a good tiny planet camera. I will either connect it to my Android or my iPhone, and I'll download the footage, and then I'll just import to Theta Plus or Roll World, and I'll manipulate into a tiny planet. Yes, you can do it in the Samsung app, but you have such a limited ability. You want to take it into a dedicated tiny planet editor and do it there. So if tiny planets play a big part in your interest in 360, then I think this is a really good tiny planet camera for both photo and video. As you saw in a previous video, my all-time favorite mobile video 360 editor is called Collect. It's free, and it's simple, and it's amazing. I'll do a quick edit of some of my footage here. You just simply choose the clips you want to use, press the tick, and we have a timeline down the bottom where you can easily go between all of your favorite clips. Click on one individually, choose a viewing point. I want it to start there. That's a really cool feature. So this is a really good, simple, stylish editor. I would highly recommend. At the moment, it's just on Android. However, it is coming to iPhone pretty soon. And you can cycle through your clips very easily up the top, make edits, do color grades, do slow motion, sped up motion. Great. You can add music, export to YouTube and Facebook, and it's super fast to respond as well. This is playing 4K 360 video instantly, no lagging at all, and it's just such a smooth, stylish and fun experience. With the computer workflow, as a Mac user, I was overjoyed to learn that Samsung have now created software to process and stitch my footage on my iMac. I'll put a download link down in the description. PC users, everything is exactly the same as before, just download Gear 360 Action Director, and that will be your weapon of choice. On both platforms, just simply back up your footage, stitch, and then you'll need to bring the footage into a non-linear editor. Adobe Premiere is my favorite editor, but you can also use Final Cut Pro, Avid, anything else you like. A word of warning,
4K file sizes are huge, so you're going to need a computer with a lot of RAM and a fast graphics card, because it's going to take a long ass time to render this footage and edit it. Look, it'll be worth it in the end, but just prepare for a lot of waiting time.
Okay, so this does seem like a pretty perfect camera, right? Well, there is one fatal flaw I discovered, nobody else has discovered yet, that I think is going to be potentially a huge issue if it's not resolved, and that's to do with the stitching. So you may have noticed in the examples so far, whenever I go near the stitch line, it automatically adjusts. So what it's doing is it's trying to compensate given how close anything is to the seam line, and it actually changes the manipulation of the two hemispheres. So although this could be a really good feature, because it's actually trying to make the stitch better, what it does is it moves the whole video file almost as if the camera is wobbling. This is a huge flaw. I really hope Samsung addressed this, because this is unusable. Look, I've experienced it more when the camera has been on the ground or on a tripod, stationary, and you walk past the seam line, or there's any kind of movement at all in the seam line, you're going to see that auto adjustment. When you look at the two unstitched spheres, there's no movement at all. So that's actually a very good thing. So I'm really hoping, Samsung, please watch this video, take my advice, you need to fix this because this is unusable. Look, it's usable. It is usable if you're on one side and you don't cross the seam line. So if I'm here and I'm saying, oh, welcome to my street, over there is a big van, there we have a trailer, there we have Gardeners Road, and there we have another street, that's fine. But if you're actually walking around and going, okay, here we have a big van, and here we have another car, then that's where the issue's going to come, when you're crossing the seam line. So for now, try to avoid crossing the seam line if you can. You know what I have noticed with handheld video, it's actually been okay. In my Tiny Planet Sydney footage, you'll notice that it's not really a thing. The footage looks good. At the moment, the price point is around the $240 mark. It probably will change in the near future, but that's the cheapest listing I could find on Amazon. I set up a link for you guys if you do want to check it out. Just go to www.tinyplanetcam.xyz and that'll link you straight through to the Amazon page I found. That's a really good price. Honestly, for a camera that can do so much, that is an absolute bargain. Seriously, $240 to do almost everything you need to do. Yes, it does have flaws, no question about that. It's not a perfect camera. But for 240 bucks, for me, this is a no-brainer. If I break this, I will buy another one tomorrow, and then when I break that a day later, I'll buy it again. A lot of people complain about any individual 360 camera not being able to do everything that they want it to do. It's not 16K resolution, doesn't have inbuilt stabilization, inbuilt stitching, it's not the world's most amazing camera, but they neglect to acknowledge the fact that they're only paying $100 or $200, and you're just never going to get the world's most amazing camera for that price point. Simple as that. Yes, this camera has flaws, but for $240, you should expect flaws. You need to spend thousands and thousands of dollars if you want a top-of-the-line camera with no issues. So for now, you're going to have to deal with the stitching issue. Honestly, I think Samsung will pick up on this and they'll upgrade their firmware. So this will be a less flawed camera, probably in the near future, in the next few months, hopefully. There's still a lot you can do with it. I'm still going to use it as my main camera. I really like it. I've got almost every 360 camera that's ever been released. Yet this is the one I've had in my pocket for the last month because of its diversity. From a 360 camera, you want something that can do everything really well. It's not that practical bringing around 3 or 4 different 360 cameras with you everywhere you go that each cover one specific thing. You want it to be all in one. And for me, this camera does more or less everything I need from a 360 camera. Yes, it could be better in a few of them, but in terms of versatility, this is a damn versatile camera and will do most of the stuff you need to do. So if you're on the fence about buying the Gear 360 2017, #RoboPenis, I would say go ahead and do it, because despite its flaws, it does a lot of amazing stuff and it's only going to get better and better. They'll fix the live streaming, they'll fix the stitching. And really, it's not that much of an investment compared to like a $600 investment in the Nikon Key Machine, which has so many more flaws than this. So it's a relatively safe investment. Like I said, my favorite application for 360 photo and video is Tiny Planets. With a camera like this, you can achieve almost anything with Tiny Planets. I like them so much that I wrote an ebook about them that'll teach you everything from A to Z. So just check it out and it'll teach you everything in a really short amount of time. And it'll really help you get the most of a camera like this. If you have any questions, leave them in the box below and I'll do my best to answer them. I feel like I've got a really good understanding of this camera by now, so I know its strengths and weaknesses. I'll do my best to help you out. Hope this review was helpful. This is Ben and RoboPP signing out. Don't forget to follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And until next time, keep capturing your world in 360. Bye bye.